Optique 2000 brings you the Optique 2000 Tunisian Rally.
Welcome to the Rally of Tunisia as we look back over yesterday's highlights from stage 2 and then on to what happened today, the third competitive day's rallying, as the competitors work their way through the country of Tunisia, and at the end of the week they'll be working their way back up to the coast at Douarba. Yesterday's story unfolded with the 3 Citroens up at the front of the field, but problems for one of them, Hubert Auriol in particular. The Buggies were involved in a great battle behind them, and on the motorcycles, Stefan Peter-Hansel, Jordi Arkerons and Heinz Kinnegaardner were battling away for the overall lead. Well, problems for one of the Citroens then. It was Hubert Auriol in trouble with the Citroen ZX, the Evolution car. This is the latest version of the ZX Rally Raid, and the latest version was in trouble after an incident. He went off the road slightly and damaged the front of the vehicle, and the new radiator had to be fitted. The Citroen support truck turning up, but unfortunately for Hubert Auriol, they didn't have a spare radiator on the support vehicle that runs them pretty close, little P4 Peugeot that runs along with quite a lot of spare parts, but they had to wait, in fact, until the big truck, the Mercedes, turned up, and then they were able to refit a new radiator and get on their way again. But he lost 3.5 hours with all these dramas, and that really has put him out of contention for winning the rally now. Timo Salonen and Pierre Lartigue, his 2 teammates in the Citroen team, so it's really going to be down to one of them to take the overall honours. Although Hubert Auriol managing to get the car going once again and rejoining the rally, and he should be able to complete the rest of the stages, but it's pretty unlikely he's going to be able to make up that amount of lost time. 3.5 hours spent in the desert waiting for the Mercedes truck to turn up. So big problems for Hubert Auriol on only the second day of competitive stages in Tunisia. Onto the motorcycles then, and a good day for the likes of Heinz Kinnegaardner and Jordi Arkerons. But the fastest man yesterday was this man, Thierry Magnaldi, the Frenchman from Toulon, who set the fastest time by 2 minutes and 17 seconds over Angelo Cavandoli. Thierry Magnaldi riding a KTM. The KTM's really running at the front of the field on the Tunisian rally so far. Only the Yamaha of Stefan Peter-Hansel running them close. There is Cavandoli on the second fastest KTM yesterday, and Cavandoli finished the day in 5th place overall. Magnaldi's fastest time not moving him up beyond 4th place in the overall rankings. The overall leader after yesterday, in fact, was this man, Jordi Arkerons, the Spaniard, yet to win a major Rally Raid event, but with a great record of success behind him. Perhaps this one could be the one where he finally takes overall victory. Even this fall, not meaning that Arkerons lost the overall lead, and he ended up 4th fastest on the stage itself, but ending up leading the rally by 2 minutes 25 seconds over Stefan Peter-Hansel at the end of the day. So the competitors reaching the end of the link, which ended them up at the Ramada bivouac. So the link from Douz to Ramada was completed. The competitors then looking forward to the link between Ramada and El Borma for today's events. Competitors finishing off together, that's Magnaldi and Peter-Hansel completing the stage together. But Magnaldi the fastest yesterday. So Jordi Arkerons the leader after yesterday's events over Stefan Peter-Hansel. Heinz Kinnegaardner, who had been leading, dropped down the order yesterday after problems losing his GPS satellite positioning navigation system, and that dropped him well down the order. He was only 9th fastest, but in the overall ranking still holding on to 3rd place. So a few dramas, a few problems for the motorcycles yesterday. We're going to come back in just a moment with the action from today. Welcome back to today's action from Tunisia. And the motorbikes, first of all, completing this link between Ramada and El Bourma. 346 kilometers of stage mileage, that's around just over 200 miles, over sort of terrain that would see them get into the first of the dunes of the Tunisian deserts. Top riders riding together today: Stefan Pederhansel on the blue Yamaha on the far side of our picture, Jordi Arcarons on the near side, and there in the middle, Heinz Kinigardner, the Austrian, on the KTM. These three deciding to run together, and that certainly helped Kinigardner, who lost his navigational equipment yesterday, and that lost him some time yesterday when he lost around 30 kilometers going round in circles trying to find the final checkpoint. Dropped him down the order. Well, today he managed to stay with the other leaders, and that really cured the problem of not being able to navigate as effectively as he wanted. So this is Kinigardner and Pederhansel running pretty close together. Some of these sections today running over some soft dunes, but other parts of the section really allowing them to be absolutely flat out for long stretches. And some of them reporting afterwards, it was pretty crazy stuff some of the time. They really were giving it absolutely full throttle for long, long stretches. Very tricky when they get caught out by patches of soft sand. They really have to watch out on this sort of terrain. Coming up to some of the dunes, you can see them backing off a little bit as they approach some of the steeper sections. Fourth bike involved is that of Thierry Magnaldi, another one of the front runners. So still the leaders riding together. Stefan Pederhansel on the Yamaha and Thierry Magnaldi on the Honda, the other two riding their KTMs. And Kinigardner, in fact, ending up the fastest today. So the man on the far side of our picture there, he ran a lot of the way with Jordi Arcarons here, and they really were going very quickly indeed. But Kinigardner ending up 4 minutes and 25 seconds faster than anyone else over this particular stage. And that has been enough for him today to take the overall lead once again in the motorcycle. So he's come up well from yesterday after a few problems yesterday. Third overall after special stage 2, but today taking the overall lead once again. These big 600cc KTMs, and big moments there for Kinigardner, just hitting a patch of softer sand, and really that's what they have to be aware of all the time when they're running at these sort of speeds in the desert. But Kinigardner certainly not backing off because of it, and setting that fastest time to take the overall lead today. So the Austrian, who's a sports manager with the KTM team, looking in good form, and the KTM team basically looking very strong with the top two positions. Pederhansel there in third position, and he also joined up with others today, Fabrizio Mioni and Angelo Cavandoli as well, all joining up together. Cavandoli ending up 6th fastest today. There he is in the front of our picture, and still holding on to 6th place overall. Pederhansel was 4th fastest today and holds on to his 3rd place overall on his return to the world of rally raids after Yamaha being away for just over a year. Well, here is one of the quads competing in the event. I mentioned that there are 2 quads competing on the event, and we saw the single sidecar outfit as well earlier in the program. Well, this is one of 2 quads competing. This is Udo Dedericks from Germany. He's not running in the top 60 of the motorcycle event, but he's still going. And the challenge of riding the quad, you can see, just as physical, if not more so, than riding the two-wheelers, really using his body all the time. Very hard work indeed. He's got one teammate also riding a quad, Johnny Simons of Holland, and the 2 of them competing over the course. This is Roger Comino on his KTM 400, getting some directions perhaps from one of the organisers, and the organiser saying, you have to go to El Bourma, the next place. It's a lovely place to go, you really ought to go. So Roger Comino setting off on his way, Here we can see Raymond Loiseau on his BMW, and Gilles Arne. And Gilles Arne just not finding life quite so easy. He's in 49th place overall. This is Bernd Neuthout, also from Germany, finding some of that soft sand once again. And we've seen these pictures many times before from the Paris-Dakar and similar rallies. And this is where it gets really, really tough, trying to dig out these heavy bikes. There's a lot of weight there that they've really got to try and shift. Being assisted by Patrick Lunen, the Frenchman, Claude Maty here on his Yamaha 200, one of the smaller bikes in one of the lesser classes. So the advantage of being a little bit lighter, perhaps. The smaller bikes not digging into the sand quite so badly, but of course they don't have the power to dig themselves out of it, conversely. So pros and cons on riding the smaller bikes, but Claude Maty trying to find his way through the dunes. Where do I go next? Well, he seems to have decided on a course of action. But maybe not. This is Herbert Scheck, the very experienced veteran of the Rally Raid series. And, well, it looks as though he's had troubles today because he's riding on the back of Daniele Cotto's Honda Dominator. So poor old Herbert Scheck having troubles with his machine, and man who's really has competed in an awful number of lot of events. Daughter also competing on this event. So the bikes at the service halt. This is Stefan Pederhansel, and saying that today they joined up together to help on the navigation, making things a little bit easier. But they really were riding very quickly. He said it was more like a motocross Grand Prix today than a rally raid. But obviously enjoying it. Flat out blast in the sand. This is Heinz Kinnegartner, the number 5. Who is now leading overall. And he said today's stages were really, really good. Just the sort of stages that he really enjoys. And true African stages. Still problems with his GPS. He lost the antenna from his GPS system in the fall he had earlier in the week. But thankfully he joined up with the other leaders today, and that helped on the navigation. And so they were able to run together and find their way through the sand dunes without too much problem. He thought it might be more difficult, but in fact they found a way through without too many difficulties today.
Manialdi, Peter Hansel, Cavandoli, und da habe ich natürlich sofort beschlossen, denen nimmer.
All running together at the front, but Kinnegartner managing to actually set the fastest time. Well, finding the occasional oasis for some of the bikes and some wonderful scenery. It's not all just sands and desert. So look at the classification after today's event. Kinnegartner then back into the overall lead ahead of Jordi Arcarons and the 2 KTMs right up at the front. Peter Hansel next up on the Yamaha. Thierry Magnaldi still there as well in 4th position. Rejoin us in just a moment for action from the cars. So on to the car section, and the Citroens deciding to play things a little bit carefully today after the problems for Hubert Auriol, the other 2 race leaders, deciding to stick together as they set off into the first of the dunes of the Tunisian rally. So Timo Salonen and Pierre Lartigue deciding to run together. and not to rush things, so they didn't want any damage done after they've got a fairly large advantage already over the rest of the opposition. Well, here you can see they've actually been joined by the two warring buggies that we've been talking about for the last couple of days. That's Jean-Louis Schlesser in the white one, and Jérôme Rivière in the delightfully pink and blue coloured machine. Well, Schlesser actually going very well today. He set the second fastest time in the end, and the fastest on today's stage was in fact Hubert Auriol, the man trying to make up for some lost ground. But this is Timo Salonen, who managed to maintain his overall lead in the event by 16 minutes, just over 16 minutes over his teammate Pierre Lartigue, even though today they were taking things fairly carefully. The Citroens, when they were getting into the more serious dunes, deciding to reduce their tyre pressures so they don't sink into the sand quite as much. They run at very, very low tyre pressures once they get into the soft sand. So the driver and co-driver out and just sorting that out so that they can get across the sand. Jean-Louis Schlesser deciding to continue in his buggy and finding some pretty good traction with that rear-engined machine. Just two-wheel drive, but with the weight very much over the rear wheels, it does give him quite a lot of traction to get through the dunes. Timo Salonen was just a little bit quicker than Pierre Lartigue, even though they were sticking together today pretty much all the way. It makes a difference on their starting positions as well. They're set off at intervals of around 2 minutes, so that's where the 2 minutes comes from. One of them setting off 2 minutes ahead of the other, so although they ran together during the day, Salonen ending up 2 minutes faster on the overall event. But this was the man who was fastest, Hubert Auriol, and he was some 8 minutes 37 seconds faster than Jean-Louis Schlesser, so he wasn't hanging about, and really with nothing to lose after his problems with that radiator change yesterday. So Auriol giving it everything he's got and seeing if he can try and make up some of that lost ground. So Auriol checking in at the end. We had a word with him at the end of the stage, and telling us that really he was just going as fast as he could today. The car was going very, very well. This latest version of the Evolution version of the ZX really going very well. Very pleased with the balance and a lot of traction, a lot of grip through the dunes as well. So a little bit tired now, but he's happy with the performance of his car. Jean-Louis Schlesser coming in second then today, ahead of the other two Citroens, so that's a good achievement. And he had a few problems with temperature today, the engine running rather too hot. Powerful motor in the back of this buggy now, so he had to back off on the last 50 kilometers. Couldn't run full throttle all the way, but still pretty happy to have finished up second fastest on today's stage. He continues to hold third place overall, just behind Salonen and Lartigue in the overall standings. Well, this is Dominique Huzio, who has now taken the overall lead in T2, the more standard category, the slightly modified cars, so not completely showroom specification. They are allowed some modifications. He's taken the lead in that, and this man, Duarte Guedes, is backing him up in the team. He's got 6th place overall. So Huzio 4th place overall, and Duarte Guedes here in 6th place overall with their more standard machines. Unfortunately today we lost De Laverne and Germanetti, both members of the same Dessoud Nissan team. De Laverne, who had been leading T2, out with problems getting stuck in some of the sand dunes today. And also problems for the other buggy. There is Jérôme Rivière, the man who was pushing Jean-Louis Schlesser so closely yesterday and was just 18 seconds down on him after yesterday's stage. Today he had 2 sets of problems. He broke his suspension, lost an hour due to that, and then got stuck in some of the dunes as well, lost another half an hour. And this man is Jean-Pierre Fontenay. Remember the man who bravely battled through the terrible dunes in the Paris-Dakar Paris this year as part of the Mitsubishi team in the prototypes. Today he got stuck in his standard T1 machine, the showroom category, and he lost an awful lot of time. He's really quite out of the reckoning this evening after everybody else made it back to the checkpoint, and he was still stuck there for quite a while. So shades of this year's Paris-Dakar Paris, poor old Jean-Pierre Fontenay not having a great time in the dunes in 1994. This is Jutta Kleinschmidt, the lady racer once again, in her first rally raid in a four-wheeled machine. She's in that Schlesser Buggy, and she set a 7th fastest time today, so she's still going very well and well in the top 10 overall. Gambillon in the number 230 Nissan in 9th place, and now the leading T1 machine after the loss of Fontenay, after Fontenay's dramas today. And Jean-Pierre Strugo also in a T1 Nissan, the Nissan Torano. So these cars both virtually standard apart from filling in the windows in the side. This is Sven Quant, and we had a word with him after he got stuck. And he's explaining that there was another car stopped at the top of the dune, so he had to brake. And of course, when he braked, he lost his momentum and sank into the soft sand. There's no problems with the car. He says the car itself is okay, it's just that they've got stuck. So once they get it out again, you should be okay. This is Klaus Böhrl in the Mercedes truck. And Böhrl going very well today. He's got himself up into 17th place overall now. So he really is going superbly well. So the stage completed to El Borma for today. They've managed to get through, or most of them have managed to get through some of the tough dunes. It's been trouble for some of them, notably Jean-Pierre Fontenay and Jérôme Rivière, but most of the others managing to somehow get out of trouble. So Alberto Paoletti in his Toyota just about managing to find his way through the dunes and get his way to El Borma. Tomorrow sees another similar length stage, a little bit shorter, tomorrow to Cassar Guilain. So from the petroleum base of El Borma to the beautiful oasis town of Cassar Guilain. Remy Naulau just being helped out of the dunes today, and the competitors really teaming up very well today. Not only the bikes helping with the navigation for each other, but a lot of the car competitors helping each other out. And the event, although done on an individual basis, the teams really do help each other out when they get into these difficulties, because they know only too well that tomorrow it may be the same for them. And so the car section sees the two Citroens still leading the way. Timo Salonen with a fair bit of an advantage over Pierre Lartigue. And really they've just got to try and stay out of trouble for the remainder of the week to try and take victory on this first round of the World Rally Cup. So Schlesser there in 3rd place. Do join us again throughout the rest of the week here on Eurosport as we continue the Rally of Tunisia coverage.
Optique 2000 brought you the Optique 2000 Tunisian